On the hidden island of Themyscira, the Amazons, led by Queen Hippolyta, live in a kingdom of peace protected by the gods. But the balance is upset when Hippolyta is granted what no immortal is meant to have, a child, given life from the clay of the island, the Princess Diana, who alone can sense the evil that is infesting the Amazons' home. Welcome everybody to another exciting episode, another edition of A Week in Geekdom here on YouTube. I am your host, Eban Menendez, and this, my friends, is a very awesome and special week. We are celebrating the release of the Wonder Woman live-action movie, and what better way than to dedicate a whole week, 5 wholesome videos on all things Wonder Woman. I am a huge fan of the character, and I wanted to pay tribute to this amazing icon of comic book and literature in the best way that I know how, and that is to, of course, bring you reviews and lists and all that cool stuff that I like, and keep the conversation going with you guys about this iconic DC superhero that means so much to so many people around the world. So to begin our very first episode of this 5-episode series, if you will, dedicated to everything Wonder Woman, I bring you my very first review. Wanted to start it off at the origin, at the essence of what Wonder Woman is for many, and I chose a book that is, simply put, amazing in its most simplistic form, and by that I mean The Legend of Wonder Woman Volume 1 Origins by Renee DeLiz and Ray Dillon. Now, this book is everything I could have hoped for and more. This book has everything. It covers from Wonder Woman's birth all the way to that iconic superhero that the world knows and loves. This just pulls at your heartstrings. It presents a really cool, heartwarming, funny, intricate, sophisticated, and just beautiful origin story to one of the most endearing comic book characters of all time. You know, you get the classic setup of Diana being from Themyscira, or Paradise Island. This land is filled with amazingly powerful women called the Amazons, and the Amazons, of course, have a different way of life compared to regular humans. The island is secluded, people cannot reach it under normal circumstances, and whoever happens to so come across the island will have no recollection of it once he or she leaves said place. Very Greco-Roman inspired, and their culture and all that stuff, of course, with the Greek gods and everything. And you get the character of Wonder Woman. Now, Queen Hippolyta is the immortal queen along with her sisters and all that stuff. She broke the rule, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, by getting the one thing that is forbidden for an immortal queen, or an immortal, if you will, a child of her own. This longing, this maternal instinct, if you will, of just having a child manifested heavily for Hippolyta. And yeah, we have the classic origin from George Perez's run re-envisioned here by Renee in a beautiful and just awe-inspiring way. When she is born out of clay, out of the earth, if you will, very symbolic, very biblical in scale, and it just goes well with everything that you've heard about Wonder Woman. This is a book that reboots and relaunches everything that you know, but in a very cool and accessible way for new readers. When people are talking to me about where to get started with Wonder Woman on social media, I always go back to this book, because yeah, you could go ahead and read the classic stories from the 40s and 50s, but you know, you want something a little bit more fast-paced, more colorful and all that stuff for the new generations, if you will. Don't get me wrong, the older stuff is great, but you kind of want to give like the HD treatment, if you will, then you go ahead and pick up The Legend of Wonder Woman. If you are very interested in the history and why this character is so powerful, then yeah, this is one of those books that you are supposed to check out. It covers everything from the arrival of Steve Trevor. You get a look at the Amazonian way in Themyscira, how they live their lives. You get a young Diana from her early ages. You start reading her adventures from like, she's like 9 or 10, and then teenager, and then an adult. And you get to see different stages of her life that normally don't get explored in other books. Renee is able to capture the essence of this very effectively by the usage of role models. She has a role model in most of the situations she's in, whether she's alone or whether she's with somebody. You know, there's always that role model figure that shapes and guides her where she needs to go. And then when she does branch out on her own, you know, she's got such a rich history to fall back on that she can just take on the world and be the one driving force that inspires humanity to do good, and to look upon her as this class A superhero and this wonderful person that is out there to protect all life, because all life is precious, all life is beautiful, and the earth is such a beautiful place that we really owe it to ourselves to protect it. And Wonder Woman embodies that, in my opinion, and it is one of the main reasons I love the character so much. But yeah, this book, I highly recommend it. The art in it is fantastic. Renee and Ray Dillon, of course, they do a fantastic job. The art in this is just superb all the way through. It captures this very modern feel, but it also evokes to the work of previous artists. It is a very contemporary look at a timeless classic story. If you love World War II era stories, then you are in for a treat, because you get some of that as well. Of course, that is a huge part of her mythos, of her character. After rescuing Steve Trevor and venturing out into the human world, she gets her first encounter with man's world, if you will. And man, what a shitty place that is, because it just so happens to be around World War II, one of our darkest periods in world history. And you get to see her fight Nazis and surprising villains that I don't want to spoil in this video, just in case you're reading this or watching this for the very first time and you haven't read the book. There are some surprising villains that are not used in current continuity in the comic books, but are used very efficiently. I was very surprised at the main antagonist. It is a character that's not used often, and I am very satisfied with that, because it brings in a new flavor. Obviously, you have characters like Zeus and Ares and Hades and all the Greek gods that have a major pull and influence in Diana's life, whether it be as allies or adversaries. This book puts a clever twist on the whole thing that I thought was actually pretty damn good. Now, the beginning pages of this book are a little bit slow, just a tiny little bit, but each issue, actually each page, gets infinitely better, more intricate, more beautiful, and the story just unfolds in a very natural, almost realistic, and just heartwarmingly way. You get characters like Etta Candy providing a modern, or you know, it's in the 40s, but a modern anchor for Diana and her adventures in the real world, in man's world, if you will, on Earth. And you get characters like Steve Trevor as well, as providing not only a potential love interest, as you know, but obviously as a source of inspiration that, you know what, in characters like these two, Etta and Steve, Diana can see that there's more to man's world than just death, destruction, plagues, just horribleness, that there is love, that there is friendship and good things to fight for and defend on this planet that we call Earth. So I think that is the most impressive and most beautiful thing about this book that I highly recommend. If you want a continuity-free Wonder Woman story that can be easily accessible for everybody, then I urge you, my friends, to check out The Legend of Wonder Woman Volume 1. Now, it is a shame that this book got canceled, but I would have really liked to see where Renee was going to take her story. My friends, if you haven't checked it out, go do so, and please support this book. It needs it. I know it's canceled. Again, I know. But if we can spread spread the word around. Maybe, you know what, maybe DC might look at it on second thought and be like, maybe we can give it another shot. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for tuning in, for liking, subscribing, and commenting down below. Tell me what you thought of the book if you have read it. If not, that's okay. As always, guys, you can follow me on your favorite social media platform, from Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and many more. Just type a Week in Geekdom, and I'm there for you guys. All right, next up, more Wonder Woman videos on this Week of Wonder here at A Week in Geekdom. I will catch you on our next video. All the